Hello and welcome to the list of games I've played in 2020 so far. Well, until the end of June anyway. This will just be a short thoughts video on all the games I've played in 2020 so far, except for Super Mario Maker. In case you didn't know, I stream other games besides Mario on every weekday afternoon here on YouTube, so feel free to join us if you're ever interested. I'm not putting Super Mario Maker 2 on this list because it's pretty much the focus of this channel. Since I'm going to rank games that have a beginning and an end, I can't see myself ranking Super Mario Maker 2. I love Mario, but in this video, I'll be talking about the other games I play. And speaking of, one game that will not be making this list that I've also played this year is Parasite Eve for PlayStation 1. I ended up abandoning the game because I got stuck at one point. I think I wasn't strong enough to continue, or I think I missed some stuff somewhere, but I didn't really feel like restarting the entire game. It's a shame because otherwise, it was a really good one. Well, I played through 14 other games since January, so let's get started. Number 14. Mushroom Man: The Spore Wars is a platformer that's exclusive to Wii that I finally got to play this year. It was fun enough, but I thought it was ultimately underwhelming. Since you're playing as a tiny mushroom, there is some creativity to be found in the levels for sure, but none of it really stands out. In fact, some of the levels were downright confusing, and the game even managed to make me feel dizzy at times. Just looking at this footage reminds me of this. The story is standard fare, as are the characters, the graphics, and pretty much everything else. The game is also pretty easy. Mushroom Man is essentially a basic platformer with hints of originality. I would only recommend this game if you're a Wii enthusiast looking for a decent exclusive. The box proudly claims that this is the best game for the Wii since Mario Galaxy. It's kind of a stretch because I thought this game was decent at best. And that's why this game ranks as number 14. Number 13. Klonoa 2, Lunatisvel. I know, classic that many people love. The first Klonoa game on the original PlayStation was a game I truly enjoyed when I had originally played it, but for one reason or another, I didn't have as much fun with the second one as I had with the first. Some stages were really cool, like the snowboarding stages, but some of the levels and their emphasis on puzzles didn't resonate with me. I also thought the story had less of an impact than the first one did. I still enjoy myself, and it's a very original platformer, and the characters are endearing and cute. So if that's the kind of game you like, you should definitely look it up. I'm still glad I played through it, but maybe my expectations for this game were too high. Number 12. Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. I was expecting so much from this game. I'm a huge fan of the original Donkey Kong Country games for the Super Nintendo, and the people that worked on those back in the day are also responsible for creating Yooka-Laylee, some of them anyway. This guy right there gushed about the game, about how it truly was a throwback to the original DKC games, something which even Retro Studios could not achieve with Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze. The Impossible Lair, however, felt like it could have been so much more. It was a throwback for sure, but one that felt inferior. Don't get me wrong, the game is still fun, but it did not blow me away. First of all, the music was a huge disappointment. Even though David Wise had to do with some of it, I thought it was vastly inferior to what he had accustomed us to in the past. I liked the Impossible Lair level. I really did. I loved the challenge. It was tough. It required reflexes. It required, practice. So that was the best challenge of the game in my opinion. But the rest of the game, unfortunately, was good. Not great. Number 11. Muramasa: The Demon Blade. Vanillaware Studios excels with these 2D action platformers. The games look gorgeous, the art style is second to none. But how is the gameplay? In Muramasa, you run left and right non-stop, attacking everything you find and occasionally talking to people on your way. And that's pretty much it. You rinse and repeat until it is over, and then you go through the game again with a second character. Same environments, same enemies, same music, but with a new story. This is one of my biggest issues with the game actually. Once you're done with one character, you basically redo the same thing all over again with the second one. It gets a little repetitive. The boss fights though are absolutely amazing. Also, look at that grid. Upgrading your swords is kind of confusing, and mostly I just upgraded my swords randomly. That being said, the game has a certain charm that still made it immensely enjoyable, and the story is good enough, so there's definitely some fun to be had. I played the Wii version, but there's an HD version that exists on PlayStation Vita that adds even more characters in, should you ever be so inclined. And it's time for number 10, baby! Yeah! Slayaway Camp, Butcher's Cut. What? How could you put an indie puzzle game over Muramasa? Well, I enjoyed the freaking insanity and mind-burning this game provided. I had so much fun playing this on stream with the viewers as we were helping each other out, trying to figure out how to beat the levels. The game is extremely violent, even though it uses blocks as characters, and I would only recommend this to people of an appropriate age. But otherwise, this is a great throwback to 1980s horror flicks, most notably the Friday the 13th series. It works better if you're familiar with that series, something which I was, but it's still great. Even if you aren't, the main game is fun and challenging, and I enjoyed beating all the films without using a single guide. However, the deleted scenes puzzles and the NC-17 puzzles got a little overwhelming. By the end, I just wanted to see all the puzzles and I cheated my way through the extra levels. The main game is totally worth it though. You can also buy a bunch of different bad guys to play as in the extra levels, and they're always fun to unlock. I definitely had a great time with that one.
Freeze! Police!
Number 9. Metroid Fusion. I actually finished Metroid Zero Mission first this year, but I had started that game last year and I just finished it really fast this year, so I decided not to include it on the list. In any case, I would have put both of them on the same spot since they were pretty much the same for me. I played both of these games on Wii U. I had downloaded them last year on the eShop, and it was about time I got to them. I love Metroidvanias, but the futuristic theme of Metroid is not my favorite. Still, Metroid is the granddaddy of them all, or should I say grandmommy? I enjoyed Metroid Fusion. It was a fun game, but it was pretty short, and it was much harder than Metroid Zero Mission. Some of the boss battles were extremely difficult, but I had fun. It was short-lived, but it was about time I got through the Metroid series. Number 8, yeah, number 8. Final Fantasy VII. I finally played through this in its entirety. It was about time. What a glorious experience. Final Fantasy VII is such an original and conspicuous game that really deserves all the praise that it gets. It was also downright ridiculous at times. I couldn't believe what some of the things they got away with were. I played the updated port of this on the Switch, and that allowed me to play the game in 4x speed, so it went by pretty fast. I'm glad I could play it in ultra speed though, because it's always good to be able to speed through random encounters. Sephiroth is a great villain, and the game's now iconic characters all have unique personalities. If you've never played the original Final Fantasy VII, you should definitely look into it. Now, it's time to give the remake a try. Hey, we're at number 7. Tomb Raider Anniversary. I owned this game on the Wii for quite a few years now, but I had never played it. I knew the original was a classic and that this remake was supposed to be good, but I just never took the time to really look into it. One of our regular viewers, however, is in love with this series. So because I knew she could guide us through the game, I gave it a shot. And what a scenic ride Tomb Raider is. Tomb Raider is mostly an ambiance game. There's action and enemies to kill for sure, but mostly you're just walking around in tombs, trying to solve puzzles, enjoying the scenery, and falling to your death. Again. And again. And again. I don't think I would have enjoyed this game that much were it not for the super helpful human guide I had, because oh boy, is it freaking confusing sometimes. Other than that though, the game was fun, and discovering each new level was always a blast. Mostly. Boss design was also pretty original and provided a good challenge. I'm now interested in trying the sequels, although apparently they just get more and more confusing. So we'll have to see. Number 6. Undertale, the game that shook the indie scene. There was so much hype surrounding this game that it was impossible for me not to be at least slightly disappointed. The only game I ever played in my life that was so incredibly hyped and that I had so many expectations of, but that still managed to live up to the hype and even more, was Chrono Trigger. So of course, Undertale had some big shoes to fill, and ultimately, Undertale was fun, but nowhere near as revolutionary as I expected it to be. Still, there's much to like about this game, from the tear-jerking story to the trolly game design to the phenomenal tunes to the battle system. Undertale is definitely a game worth playing through if you enjoy RPGs at all. Of course, Undertale is not an RPG like the others. Its battle system is unique because you have to move a little cursor around to avoid enemy attacks, sometimes playing like a shmup, sometimes like a platformer. There are 3 main endings in this game with a bunch of variations on them, which require you to take a different route every time, essentially forcing you to play the game 3 times if you want to see all 3 endings. One of these routes really tries to pull at your heartstrings by forcing you to annihilate everything and everyone and making you feel guilty about it. All in all, I did play the game 3 times, so I definitely enjoyed my time with it. It's worth going through, it's definitely worth playing, but my expectations were probably a little too high. Number 5. Okami. I finally played this classic. Originally released for the PS2, I played the PS4 version, and its hand-drawn, lush visuals in HD are nothing short of striking. You play as a white wolf, a goddess in the form of a wolf, and your job is to, what else? Get rid of evil. The comparisons to The Legend of Zelda are fair, as the game plays in a much similar fashion, but it would be unfair to call it nothing but a Zelda clone. This game is unique in its own right, and the brush mechanisms that force you to draw and cast spells feel gimmicky at first, but soon become second nature. As you run from village to village and fight enemies along the way, you'll gain new powers and eventually be strong enough to defeat evil. What you wouldn't expect from a game like this, however, is its lewd penchants. Isun, your trusty little comrade, never stops commenting on the women he encounters. Now, whether you think that's funny or not is up to you, but it was definitely surprising, and I did not expect to find that in such a game. In any case, Okami is a game that's definitely elevated by its graphics, and the story and music are no aggravations either. We got to number 4, yeah, number 4, yeah, number 4, yeah. Odin Sphere? Leifthrasir? Just call it Odin Sphere. So this is another game that was originally released on the PS2 that I played on PS4. Now, if you'll notice, the visuals are extremely similar to another game I previously mentioned in this video. Yes, this is another game made by Vanillaware Studios. So why is Muramasa so low and Odin Sphere so high? Especially since, just like Muramasa, this game is extremely repetitive, except now you do everything 5 times instead of 2. I've never been a fan of beat-em-ups for that reason. I can't stand it when games get too repetitive, and that is what scares me about Dragon's Crown and why I still haven't gotten it. In any case, I think I just liked the game more because the story was so good. Also, the ability matrix was much easier to navigate than the weapon one in Muramasa. The characters were also visually impressive, from Odin to Queen Odette to Queen Elfaria. And the game just felt more complete as a whole. Again, yes, this is a repetitive game, but there was something strangely appealing about Odin Sphere. After I got used to it, I just had a blast playing this. And we have finally reached number 3! Woo woo! Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2. Yes, I'm putting both games on the same spot. I played both Bayonetta 1 and 2 back to back on the Wii U, and it basically felt like one big game. Oh, and how much fun they were. I had never played big budget games like this before, and what a spectacle they were. Everything about Bayonetta is over the top, from the violence to the sexiness to the script to the enemy encounters and the boss battles. It's all pretty grandiose. The set pieces found in this game were just so much fun. I never got bored with either game and loved fighting my way through both of them. The second game is much easier than the first, for sure, but I really liked the challenge of the first one, even if it meant dying over and over again. And now, apparently a third game is in the works, so I will be playing that for sure when it's finally released. Number 2. Ys 9 Monstrum Nux. The Ys series. I love it. I've played every game in the series, so I just had to get this for PS4. And now that the game has officially been announced for Western Shores, I might have to replay it on the Nintendo Switch when it finally hits. The action is great as it ever was, and of course, the music, the music was so freaking amazing. In fact, the CD that comes with the limited edition of the game is pretty disappointing, as it features only a few of the game's tunes, and not even the best ones in my opinion. I had a blast playing through Ys 9, despite its totally different setting this time around. Basically, most of the game takes place in one big city, and you barely go out of it. Still, running around in that massive city was a lot of fun, and there's still some bits to explore outside of it. The characters were great, and I actually loved that Adol was older this time. Older protagonists are quite rare in Japanese video games. They're usually always teenagers, so it was fun to have an older Adol for once. Highly recommended. This is pure action RPG goodness. Or that's what the Ys games used to be anyway. There's one thing I'm not a fan of in the modern Ys games: their emphasis on story. They are starting to feel like Falcom's other flagship series, the Legend of Heroes games, and sometimes I feel like Ys 9 just had too much story going on. And in case you're wondering, I thought Ys 8 suffered from the same problems. Regardless, Ys 9 will grow on you if you give it a chance, and it's a fantastic game. Number 1. Here we go! Dragon Quest XI S Echoes of an Elusive Age. After so much time, I finally got my hands on the Switch version of Dragon Quest XI. I hesitated between the Switch version and the PS4 version because the PS4 version is so much cheaper now, but the added 2D worlds in the Switch port were so worth it. It was great to be able to go back to each and every single previous main Dragon Quest game and play through some of the worlds again. Otherwise, the main game is just fantastic, with great characters and a great storyline. I was invested in its world, and I couldn't wait to see what came next. I'm glad that Dragon Quest remains true to its turn-based roots, unlike Final Fantasy that has strayed away from them. And besides Ys, Dragon Quest is my favorite series of all time. Yes, it took me a while to finally get to it, but I savored the game all the same a few years later. Just talking about it brings me back, and now I kinda want to pop the card in my Switch and go grind some of those metal slimes. There's not much to say about Dragon Quest XI that you haven't heard before. It's just a fantastic turn-based JRPG that deserves to be played should you be a fan of the RPG genre at all. Great game, and so far, it's the best game I played this year. And those were all the games I played in the first half of 2020. Even though my channel is focused on Super Mario Maker uploads, I love playing through other games too. As I said at the beginning, I stream every weekday afternoon, so if you're ever interested, feel free to join us. I can't wait to see which other games I'll play by the end of 2020. I typically decide on the fly what game I'll play next, so who knows which other surprises this year will bring. By the way, yes, I use YouTube's audio library for this video because I didn't want to take any chances with copyrighted music from the other games, and I apologize for that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next live.